Hi there, my friend. Welcome to Mindfulness with Matt, where I talk about how to live mindfully for a happier and more peaceful life. Today, we're going to talk about happiness and how you can make a choice anytime you're feeling lost, stuck, or confused. Yes, I know it's a big topic, and I won't be able to cover every aspect of it, but why not try? Today, I'll be covering a different approach to viewing happiness, why it's important, and the 3 ways you can make it a choice rather than leaving it up to the fates of others, or who knows what's out there. I do first want to preface this by saying that this video is solely for your reference and not intended for anyone suffering from severe mental health issues or threatening life conditions, so please keep that in mind. I've also included mental health resources below should you need it. Now let's dive right in. Happiness is 110% subjective and looks, feels, and tastes different for every person. But that isn't to say that there's common myths out there regarding what happiness should be. Emphasis on the should. And that oftentimes looks something like follow your passion, surround yourself with people that support your growth, or do what you love, make money and buy yourself those things, those vacations, and financial freedom. The list goes on and on. Nothing wrong with those, but the common theme with this narrative is that it's a prescribed path that supposedly works for everyone and is very much extrinsic. And as we know, that form of happiness very often derives from societal values that define what happiness looks like, and chances are we tried one or a few of those things and just don't feel right. Why? Because 1, everyone is different and those prescribed happiness are merely hypotheses and most likely derived from people who may be vastly different from you. And 2, it doesn't address the root cause of why we're feeling unhappy in the first place. So here I invite you to consider happiness through the opposite lens, the lens of pain and suffering. Now before you say, hold up, I thought we were only here to talk about the good stuff. Trust me with this, it will lead to the good stuff. If you're thinking about happiness and perhaps feeling a little discontent with your life, it is guaranteed that there is something blocking you from achieving that happiness. Essentially, you can't talk about happiness without addressing its opposite sibling, suffering. Think of happiness as the sun, always shining, but the suffering are the storming clouds that get in the way of the sunshine. In Buddhism, one of the core teachings is that life is filled with suffering, and until we work to address the suffering, it will always be there. Sounds a little negative, right? I thought the same first when I first came across it, but in the name of happiness, the life is suffering teaching is purely a diagnosis, and the negativity we make out of it is because we were brought up to think that suffering is bad. When in fact, yes, it might not be pleasant, but it really is the foundation for building our happiness on. Say happiness one more time. As humans, we are all wired to avoid suffering and pursue pleasantries in life, and it doesn't help that our culture also promotes those dopamine-seeking activities because, well, it feels good. Who wants to be the party pooper and say, listen honey, you're gonna have to do the work yourself before you can achieve that happiness? Not many, but well, here I am doing exactly that. Until we really put in the work to resolve those roadblocks, those unpleasantries will always be there, no matter how hard you avoid them. And you can suppress them as much as you want by chasing the positive form of happiness, but the underlying issues will always come back to you. I'll give you a short example that I'm sure many of us can relate to: taking time off. When I had a week off between quitting my old job and starting a new one, I visited my best friend in LA to just have some downtime and fun. It was indeed fun, but my mind could not shut down from one thought, that I was so scared of starting the new job. And that permeated throughout the whole week when I was there, when I was hiking and when I was chilling and just supposed to be having fun. And it wasn't until I really worked through my underlying issue that I was able to enjoy the LA sun for its true warmth and cheerfulness. Can relate? Well, let's get into the 3 ways that you can make happiness your choice by alleviating your suffering. Call it the 3 invisible happiness pills, if you will. The framework is straightforward. If you're in a situation that is causing you to suffer, you have 3 options: R, F, A. To remove yourself, to fix it, or accept the situation entirely. I came across this concept in Aaron Eckhart's book Power of Now, which I'll link below, where he talks about it just very briefly, so I'll break it down more in depth. The first way is to remove yourself. I think this one seems quite easy to understand because it isn't just another form of avoiding. In some ways, yes and no. Let's use a hypothetical situation to illustrate. Suppose you're arguing with someone you love, and after minutes and hours of resisting and fighting one another, you decide that you need a break and want to use this chance to remove yourself from the situation and just cool down. Removing yourself in this instance would be an active choice where you're participating in knowing that you need the time to regather yourself before you can have a proper conversation with a loved one and find a solution. On the other hand, avoiding would be a passive choice where perhaps you are feeling worn out, don't want to talk about it anymore, and you actually don't. Even if the other party tries to bring up the topic of contention again, you just shut down and refuse to address it, which, if you're familiar with the attachment styles, would be avoidant. So on the surface they seem similar, but removing yourself means holding yourself responsible and empowering yourself, making it your choice, while avoiding means letting that mess roam around and subjecting yourself to the suffering of the situation, making it not your choice. Now, removing yourself from a situation isn't always possible, which leads to the second option, which is to fix it. You might be thinking, no duh, but you'll be surprised at how often we like to play victim. I'll use my own job experience as an example. When I was promoted to a new role with a company that I've had a great time working for, I was very excited. But what started out as excitement very quickly became a torture chamber that many have warned me about. From micromanaging to poor leadership and just a lack of friendly culture, it was easily one of the worst working experiences I've had. Day and night, I felt anxious, dreading work, and unable to motivate myself to find a positive attitude to tackle another day. So what did I do? I blamed leadership and the culture. I found many ways to attribute the causes of my own suffering in others and use that as an excuse to not fix the situation. And that actually made things worse. When I assigned that toxic narrative to my job, it overnight became even more unbearable by the nature of labeling it as bad. So while I couldn't remove myself immediately, aka quit, I decided that I needed to fix it by voicing my concerns and proposing change that I would like to see within the team, while also seeking external opportunities. And actually, to my surprise, my boss was very open and we were actually able to foster a line of communication and work practices that made my day-to-day so much more tolerable. So instead of blaming, which puts you in the passive position and your happiness not a choice of yours, you learn how to fix the situation to your best, which again makes it your choice and holds you responsible for your own happiness. I can hear some of you whining behind the screen because I just told you that blaming others is not the way, and I get it. I just have to catch myself when I do it, and yes, there are systematic things that sometimes really are just beyond your control. That's not to say that your initial reaction to want to blame others is wrong per se, but eventually you do need to take the power back to change your life. And the first step is recognizing that you're blaming others, then taking the reins to fix it and find the happiness that lays covered by the blame. You are only giving away the choice to be happy when you surrender your problems to others. The third way is to accept the situation completely. Emphasis on the word completely. This option is perhaps the least intuitive one because in Western cultures we're often taught to take action rather than inaction. Inaction is often viewed as a failure of your efforts to be successful at solving a problem. But actually, it is one of the most powerful ways to live a happier life, and notably one of the most difficult when change is ingrained in our DNA. Again, I'll use another hypothetical example. You can tell we love examples here. Say you are physically sick from, say, a cold or COVID and have symptoms that are obviously causing you pain. You've exhausted your options from consulting the doctor, taking prescribed meds, and drinking plenty of fluids and even other herbal supplements, but your body just won't budge. So you start to worry, compounding on your physical pain even when the doctors told you for the 1,000th time that you will get there. So you resist and you resist, letting your worries affect your rest, prolonging your recovery. And what's left now? To accept. To accept that you are sick and that you've tried all your options that are available to you, and that acceptance means listening to your body and resting up, that things currently are beyond your control. At first it might seem weak of you to not physically be in charge of the body, but acceptance in this case aids your healing faster and makes it your choice to be at peace. When you continue to resist, feel mentally agitated with your body, you become the own victim of your body and not working with it to recover. Again, acceptance is not a weakness, and in many instances is claiming that responsibility to be happy and at peace with your life happenings. And finally, bonus. There's actually a fourth way. The reality is that life doesn't work in isolated paths, and you have to utilize a mix of remove, fix, and accept to navigate the complexities of life. You may need to fix and accept simultaneously, or you may need to first fix before you can remove. It all depends on the situation. But what matters most is recognizing beneath all the suffering and pain is your choice to expose that veil of suffering and uncover the happiness. It's not easy and takes continuous practice, but it's well worth it. I'll give you one final personal experience to illustrate this. I currently live in New York City, and anyone who's lived here for a while knows that the subway MTA system is less than perfect. So one day on a hot spring day, I got off the subway and was faced with the bane of my existence. No AC. I was already sweating and my eczema was flaring up and I was feeling agitated and just anxious. While I would usually just continue to suck it up and suffer and complain in my mind, I accepted that this was what it was, and at the next stop I simply got up, moved to the next cart, and was blessed with the magic of cold air. That's simple, and I felt so much better and arguably happier. In this case, I accepted the reality while still hot in the cart and afterwards took the reins to fix it by removing myself. So next time you find yourself in a difficult situation that is causing you to suffer, remember the choice of happiness is always available at your fingertips. You got this. Let me know what you think about this remove, fix, and accept framework, and if you found any option particularly effective in the comment section. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time.